Hey, everybody.
Hey, Michelle.
Hey everyone, I'm on the road, so I'm gonna keep my camera off and muted.
Sounds good. Thanks, Nick. Give it a couple more minutes. Okay.
Hi, I'm not Nick. How are you?
How are you?
I'll change my name.
Waiting on 3 more people, so give another 2 minutes or so. Job, a good 4th.
You know, it was an ambiguous celebration this year.
Yeah.
Or ambivalent, I guess I mean.
Day after holidays, so maybe a little hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like Sunday.
Yeah. It's always hard though with rescheduling things because, you know, there's so many other city meetings that you don't want to take up someone else's spot.
Mhm.
Respect all your meetings, Tom.
I missed what you were saying.
Oh, I was just saying that it's not great rescheduling the day after a holiday, but didn't want to take time on any of your other meetings.
Yes.
You guys got a lot on the calendar. Let's see, I'll get 1 more minute. We don't have to vote on anything today, so it's fine if we're a partial board, and I can always talk to folks and catch them up. We just have a couple updates to go through. Today's gonna be a lot of me talking and asking for some feedback. So hopefully it should be about half an hour or so and get out of here.
I just want to say hi, Jeffrey. I'm Rebecca Wolf. I'm on the HHA Board of Commissioners as well, but I've never been in even a Zoom meeting with you before. So just wanted to say hello.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
All right.
Okay, so Dustin just told me he's not able to come. So I think we'll get started. I'm going to share with you real quick the agenda that we might move around a little bit. So hello, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. So today is going to be kind of a quick informal meeting, mostly to get everyone updated on some new changes and updated timelines We have some updates on the structure of the Housing Trust Fund Board. I was hoping Mayor Johnson is going to hop on to provide some more details on that. So I might switch to that, move that down the list because he might be running late. And then kind of explain some of what's coming up for our work. Wanted to introduce Jeffrey and then give you some updates on our engagement and our social media and about a consultant that we are able to hire under the ADLN funds who's going to help out with some housing trust revenue studies. So just a bunch of quick updates. I'm going to move to introducing Jeffrey. So Jeffrey Dodson is our new Executive Director of the Hudson Housing Authority. We are thrilled to have him, and he has kindly agreed to help also serve on this board, being ex officio position of the Housing Director. And then Nick can stay on the board. They have to kind of reapply to HCDPA, and they have to formally approve that position, but then we can have the benefit of both Nick and Jeffrey's experience. So I don't know, Jeffrey, if you want to just introduce yourself real quick, tell us a little bit about yourself, because we're really happy to have you here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Just a young guy from some city in Newark. And I've worked in the housing business for a long time, for 29 years, and actually lived in public housing for 23. So it's truly a life's work, lived and worked. So anything I can do to help and learn more as well, I'm here for it.
Awesome, thanks. And I'll just, I guess, explain for you, Jeffrey. So Thomas DiPietro, who's on, is our Common Council President, and he is on this board. And then Rebecca Wolf is on this board, who you've met in the interviews, I believe. And then you know Nick. And then we also have on here you Claire from the board, from your board, the HHA board. And we have Dominic Moranti, who is our majority leader on council. And we have our Michael Hoffman is our mayoral aide. So just so you know who's on the board and who is a participating member of the public. And then we have 3 members of the board who are not here tonight, so I can introduce them next time. And so some of the stuff, this will be really good for you to hear, Jeffrey, about what we're up to, but then also I can definitely, we'll talk tomorrow, I can fill you in on some of the other background info for the Housing Trust Fund. Cool, so that's Jeffrey, really happy to have him. I will kind of get into some updates about the Housing Trust Fund. I guess maybe Mayor Johnson got caught up. So basically, the original structure of the Housing Trust Fund was that it would have, it was under HCDPA, and it'd have its own, trust fund for the revenue would go into, and that this board would have final decision over choosing the grant recipients. But HCDPA would approve the overall budget each year. So basically, since HCDPA has a new attorney and we had another attorney from the mayor's office look everything over, basically seeing that actually HCDPA has to have final say over financial decisions. So this board would be an advisory board. And so the way everything will be basically the same, in that we will make our budget each year with the operating budget as well as our budget for programs. So the operating budget will be things like we're going to pay HCDPA like a flat fee each year for using their attorney, their bookkeeping, auditing. Operational will be like my salary, and then program budget will approve amount each year, and we'll discuss what the goal of the program will be each year. That's like really going to be a lot of where your input comes in about whether we want it to be new construction or rental assistance or whatever. So HCDPA would approve that budget at the beginning of the fiscal year. And then this advisory board would do the work of thinking about the grant guidelines, thinking about the purpose of the programs, and we would put out those grants advertisements. This board would do the work of trying to make sure that everyone who needs to know about the funding opportunities hears about it. And then we'd recommend the recipients of the grant to HCDPA. So they would have that final say over accepting the grant recipients, but it's going to be an understanding in that the expertise is coming from this board, and also the idea being not to put more work onto their plate. Like they have a lot of things on that board, and this board you all are signing up to be the folks doing the research, doing the thinking about how these funds should be used. And so there is going to be expectation of trust and respect from HCDPA into how the decisions of this board were made and created. And that something that, I'm going to be working with HCDPA and with their attorney and Sarah Black in coming months is creating really clear expectations of the role of HCDPA, so they know what information I need to provide to them from this board, what decisions they'll be making and when, and so that it's very clear from the get-go about whose role is which. So the big change is really just that they do have that final say in approving grant recipients, but understanding that this board is here with expertise and a commitment to put the time into the research. And then the other component is that technically the trust fund will be, instead of just being a trust fund account, it'll be an account under HCDPA. And so it's something that HCDPA still is working on in terms of whether or not they want to put this into their bylaws, into making the housing advisory board and that housing trust fund as part of their bylaws. That's something that they can vote on, decide, and the attorneys are drafting up some documentation for that. So that will be coming for them to look at in this coming month. So it'll basically mean we might have to reapprove our bylaws, just as the language is a little bit different, but the content of it will be the same in terms of things we already discussed about the uses and in terms of who's on the board, etc. And the big thing too is that the funds came from enterprise and they have very strict rules encoded in the use of the funds about being used for certain AMI levels, being used for affordable housing. And so those requirements that come with those funds stay, and that's going to be something that HCDPA will understand too. So any questions about that, or do you want me to repeat or anything that was unclear? Okay, cool. And I see we have Usha on. So hello, Usha, welcome. And we have Mayor Johnson who joined us. So thank you, welcome. So basically, I just went through some of the updates on the Housing Trust Fund Board. So you guys may call it the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Board. Cool. Okay. So if everyone's good on that, then I will move on down our agenda. So just gonna provide an updated timeline of work. So I will share my screen again. So this is subject to change based on, things sometimes have unexpected hiccups, but to give you a basic general overview of the work we're looking at. So during this month, so our public engagement, we now have received about 200 responses to our survey about how the residents want the Housing Trust Fund to be used. I still working to do more outreach, especially at in-person events now that we have more in the sunny weather, and that really trying to reach folks who may not be active on social media to answer that. And so this month I'll be finishing up that engagement as well as like a needs assessment I've been working on, so that I will send that to you at the end of July, so that when we come together in August, you'll have information and we can discuss what we've heard from the public about how they want the funds to be used. So that's something I'll be working on. And if anyone, I might reach out to some people because we kind of, report. So I might, if I want someone to proofread or edit, I might share that so the board can give them another eye to that. Also in July, I'll be providing some draft grant guidelines for our grants. So for example, those guidelines will be like, we would provide grants to certain nonprofits, we would not provide them to any for-profit organizations, what kind of size of the grant, the uses. And so we have those set before we open up calls for funding. So I'll be sharing that for y'all to look over. And so in August, we can make edits or accept those. And then based on what happens with HCDPA this month with their decisions about how they want to move forward, then I might provide some draft revisions to our bylaws just so that they reflect kind of the different governance structure. Those would be very minor adjustments. And then providing a draft budget. That will be an overall budget about our operational costs because we need that to be approved so that I can get paid in coming months. And then we will hold off on drafting the program budget until we have more information about our uses. So those are the things I'm working on next coming weeks that I'll send to you in advance of the August meeting. So then in August, we can review and discuss those items. Any questions on that you guys have?
Could you just say a little bit more about the needs assessment?
Sure. So basically, we had, so like Pattern for Progress did our affordable housing development plan, and they definitely showed that there's great need for affordable housing. Something I've been working on and a question I've been wanting to see is like, what income brackets do we really think we need housing for? So looking at, since we got the updated census data, just updating some of that to see who's here, who's housing burdened, what some of the median rents are. And so I can kind of provide some information on the gaps in what income bracket levels are in the city and what rent levels and what housing price levels we have, and kind of seeing a little bit more data on which income levels are most in need, and like also what family size is, because that's also important in terms of figuring out, you know, what types of housing we need to find.
Thank you.
I know we've had a lot of plans over the past couple of years, so this is just intended to be not trying to redo anything other plans we've done, but just kind of a quick update using some of the most recent data that we have, so we have a better idea of specific needs.
I am curious about the census. Like, I know there's been a lot of discussion nationally about possible ways the census might have been really just basically inadequate,
Yeah,
because of COVID, et cetera.
mm-hmm.
But oh well, I guess it's what we have. Yes, sort of.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the census is not, we should consider it more of an estimate than a count this year. I also think it's useful to compare the census to the 2019 data we have and also compare it to some of our regional peers. So even if we know that the exact numbers aren't right, we get a sense of the trends at least. Okay, so just to kind of recap that, these are the things I'm working on this month. I'll send that information to you guys around the 3rd week of July. So you have a good 10 days to look at it before the meeting in August. And then in August, we can, you know, approve some things, have some discussions. And then to give you some heads up for what we'll work on in August is looking at the program goals. So after we have that discussion, you know, we look at the engagement, we look at the needs assessment, we can think a bit more like, okay, who do we think or what projects most need the funds, and we can continue those discussions in August and draft those goals. And then also as part of the anti-displacement grant, we had some funds to hire a consulting firm who is going to help out with some housing goals. And one of the tasks I asked them to help out with is to collaborate with me on a study of revenue sources for the Housing Trust Fund. So I'm not sure exactly the timeline of that, but my goal is to have that done before September because of the BEA. Correct me if I'm, what, boards of estimates and appropriation? Apportionment? Okay, apportionment. Since they meet in the fall, hopefully having that trust fund revenue study done so that we can put that into a BEA request. So using all those different types of data engagement so that come fall, we can look forward into finding a more permanent revenue source. So that is what I have for coming up for the next 2 months or so, again, subject to change. Okay, so then moving on, we talked about the board, we talked about our work, we introduced Jeffrey. So in terms of engagement, I just wanted to say that, again, we are excited that we've gotten about 200 responses for the survey. I do think that we're missing hearing from some of our lower income residents. I do think that the survey results are skewed towards some of our higher income residents who have connected to some of the social media sources we've been sharing the data. And so one thing I do want to think about is doing some small group or quick interviews. So for example, calling people on the phone and talking to them for 10 minutes or whatever. And so I'm going to ask you all as the board to maybe think of 2 to 5 people who you think have experience living in lower income housing or have experienced housing instability in the city, who you think would be really good to talk to. And I can do those interviews. We can do some of them as a group, in case, or maybe 2-on-1. We don't want to intimidate people, but I think having 2 people can sometimes, one person can be recording or note taking, one person can be asking questions. Or if some of you have close connections and some folks may be more comfortable talking to you than, to me if they don't know me. So that's some of your homework. Get me a list, 2 to 5 people who have experience with housing instability in the city, so we can talk to and get some more in-depth conversations to supplement the surveys we have. That's homework number 1. Homework number 2. So we also have a social media account now, which has been helpful to reach more folks in the city. So we're on Instagram. We just started Facebook. So we're over 300 followers in 1 month, which is pretty good. And so we've been using that to share information about like educational information about housing affordability, but then also about events. But one thing we're doing is featuring folks in the city who are engaged in this work and trying to help people put some faces and names to this work and understand who's actually behind it. So I've sent you guys an email about providing some information for that. I'm going to show you an example of what it's been looking like for the Instagram. Sorry. So here's our Instagram is Hudson Housing Justice. So we have some posts that are about events, like we were at Waterfront Wednesday last week. We have some posts that are about the survey. We have some posts that have been about what affordable housing is. But we've also had these posts featuring people working in housing. So this is, a post of Sarah Black, who's our executive director of HCDPA. She has a quote about what makes her feel at home in Hudson. She has a quote about why she's inspired to do this work. And then I have a brief bio for her on the side. These have been our most engaged with posts. They've been shared a lot. They've been liked a lot and commented on. And we're finding that residents like seeing who is behind the work in the city. And so if you are comfortable, I would like to have the information from you all so folks know who you all are. If you're not comfortable, I totally understand. I would at minimum maybe just put your name and list some of the names, but if you want to provide a photo and answers to those questions and brief bio, I'd love to feature you guys on the Instagram. I'll follow up this meeting with those questions. And if you're not comfortable, just let me know. That's cool too. Any questions on that? Okay. So then those are my 2 asks for you guys for this month, is thinking of some folks I can interview and letting me know either you're not comfortable or you don't want to be on social media, or give me that info. And then the last thing I want to discuss is that we have our next meeting planned for August 1st, which is a Monday at 5 p.m. Just want to check in. That's good for the folks who are here, and ask whether you have a preference for Zoom or in person.
It's good for me, and in person is great if possible, seems like.
I'm flexible. There's a new kid on the block. It'll be nice to meet people since I'm new here, but Doesn't matter either way.
Person's fine by me. Or
Okay.
either way.
Okay, so I've got 3 flexibles, but in person would be nice. Usha or Nick, any input?
I'm flexible, but I think getting back to in-person sounds great.
Okay, cool. Hi, Usha. Hi, Usha, how are you? Usha, I don't know if you can hear me, but we're wondering if you have a preference for in-person meetings or Zoom meetings.
I don't think she can hear me.
Might be a thing with the audio.
Oh.
So I'll follow up with you, Usha, and get your preference. Okay, so that was my list. I know today was all me talking, so I'm sorry if I had a lot of updates to give. So I'll follow up with a reminder of those 2 requests for engagement and just kind of a list of things that I'll expect to be sending in the coming weeks, so that at our August meeting, it's going to definitely be something that will be a time for more of your thoughts and input on some of this work. And I'll give you all the materials in advance so that y'all feel prepared to discuss those things. Any thoughts, questions, comments? Okay.
I just wanted to say, oh, sorry. Did I jump in? I just wanted to say I've appreciated the social media posts. I think they're very clear, direct, I feel like they strike a really good tone for people who might not know anything about, what's going on, but also for those who think they do.
Thank you. And also, I'm working on content for coming months. If you guys think of things of misconceptions you hear a lot in public, or things that you think you wish people could understand more, or events you want to share, let me know, and I can build up some content for that. And we'll work on, trying to make these more engaging. Okay, on that note, I want to thank you all for your time. Thanks again, Jeffrey, for joining us. We're really excited to have you. I'll send some follow-up emails, and please go enjoy your evening, everybody.
Thanks for having me. Have a nice one, everyone.
Everybody.
Okay, bye y'all.